Some men come home to a hot meal and a hug. I came home to my 8-year-old daughter unconscious on the hallway floor and a wife who shrugged like I'd asked her about the weather. Let me back up. My name is Kevin Wood. I'm 41 years old. I'm a senior director of business development for Hartwell Industrial Automation, one of the bigger players in the automation space out of Chicago. What that means in plain English is that I spend my life flying into rooms full of skeptical people, reading the fine print they hoped I wouldn't notice, and closing deals that keep 300 jobs running. I'm good at it. I read people for a living. Funny how blind that made me at home. Welcome to Dad's Raw Revenge. Get settled, because this story is going to take you somewhere. Hit that like button and drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you're going to love it here. We lived in Naperville, Illinois, specifically, a 4-bedroom colonial on Ashbury Court, the kind of place where you feel like you've done something right. I thought I had done something right. Tessa, my daughter, was 2 years old when her mother Olivia died. There are no words for that kind of loss, so I won't reach for them. What I will say is that for 3 years, it was just me and Tessa, her little backpack by the door every morning, her knock-knock jokes at dinner that never quite made sense, her absolute conviction that chocolate chip pancakes were an acceptable dinner option. They are, for the record. Then Zena came into the picture. Zena Crawford, Zena Wood now, walked into a Hartwell client event in the spring looking like somebody's answer to a prayer. Warm smile. Quick laugh. She got down on one knee the first time she met Tessa, and said, "I've heard so much about you. Your dad talks about you like you hung the moon." Tessa looked at her very seriously and said, "I didn't hang the moon, I'm only 5. Zena laughed like it was the best thing she'd ever heard. I was wrong. We got married 14 months later. I told myself Tessa needed stability. I told myself I wasn't just lonely. I told myself I was a good reader of people, and I had read Zena clearly. I told myself a lot of things. Here's what I know about bad deals, and I've walked away from a few in my career. The warning signs are almost never loud. They don't announce themselves. They're quiet. You don't see it until you go looking. And most people never go looking, because everything on the surface looks fine. My surface looked great. Good house. Good school district, beautiful wife who posted family photos on Instagram with the caption grateful. I was in London when Tessa's teacher, Miss Fowler, sent me an email in January saying Tessa had seemed unusually lethargic for the past 2 Mondays, and asked if everything was okay at home. I forwarded it to Zena, and she replied, "Already handled it. Tessa's been fighting a little cold. She's fine, babe." I believed her. I was in Denver in March when Zena texted me. Tessa bumped her head. "She's okay, just being dramatic, don't worry." I believed her. I was so busy believing her that I stopped paying attention. It was a Tuesday in late June when I landed back at O'Hare 3 days ahead of schedule. The Davenport contract, a 9-month negotiation, had collapsed on their end, not ours, and my flight home was moved up. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to surprise Tessa. I'd bought her a stuffed golden retriever from a shop near the hotel, because she'd been asking for a dog for a year, and I kept saying maybe. It was a consolation maybe. She would have loved it. I pulled into Ashbury Court at 11:52 p.m. The house was dark, except for the porch light. Good, I thought. Normal. I punched in the garage code, came through the side door into the kitchen, set my bag down and walked into the hallway. And stopped. Tessa was on the hallway floor. She was on her side, her school backpack thrown a few feet away, her feet bare. It looked like she had tried to crawl out of her bedroom in the dark, looking for water or help, before her body simply gave out. Her face was slack. Her breathing, I dropped to my knees so fast I bruised both of them. Her breathing was shallow and painfully slow. No, 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 no. Tessa, Tessa, baby, wake up. I touched her face, warm but unresponsive. Tessa. Footsteps on the stairs. I looked up. Zena stood at the top of the staircase, in her silk pajamas, arms crossed, expression somewhere between annoyed and bored. "She's fine," Zena said. "I disciplined her earlier. She's been acting out all week, Kevin. She's being dramatic." I looked at my 8-year-old daughter unconscious on the floor. Then I looked at my wife. Something in my chest shifted. "She's not dramatic," I said. "She's not breathing right. Kevin, don't make this into, I was already dialing 911. The ambulance was there in under 8 minutes. Two paramedics came through the front door with a gurney and a kit, and the one in front, stocky guy, maybe early 40s, dark hair going gray at the temples, stopped the moment he crossed the threshold. He looked at Tessa. He looked at the hallway. He looked at Zena standing at the bottom of the stairs now. And I watched his face do something I've only seen once before. When a VP at a company we were acquiring realized mid-meeting that we had already found the fraud. That specific look. Recognition colliding with disbelief. His name tag said Reyes. He worked on Tessa with focused, efficient calm. The kind of calm that's been trained over years. His partner called out her vitals. I stood there holding that stuffed golden retriever like an idiot, completely useless in my own hallway. Then Reyes stood up, looked at me directly, and said quietly, "Sir, can I talk to you for a second?" In the kitchen. That's never a good sentence. I followed him. He pulled the kitchen door half closed and turned to face me. He kept his voice low. "Sir, what are you doing here tonight?" I blinked. "I live here." "I understand that. I mean," he paused. Choose his words carefully. "Are you normally home? During the week?" "I travel for work. I got back early tonight." "Why?" Reyes looked at me for a long moment, like he was doing the math in real time and not loving the answer. "I've been to this house before," he said. 6 months ago. February, I responded to 911 call at this address. Little girl. Unresponsive. Antihistamine overdose. When we arrived, there was a woman here who said she was the child's stepmother. She told us the father was overseas. Unreachable. The kitchen was very quiet. She told us, Reyes continued, that the little girl had a documented history of getting into medicine cabinets. A behavioral disorder. She was very calm about it. Very detailed. Very detailed. Of course she was. We filed a report with DCFS, he said. Standard protocol for a second. He stopped. Wait, you didn't know about any of this. It wasn't a question. He could see it on my face. No, I said. I didn't know about any of this. The stuffed golden retriever hit the kitchen floor. I rode in the ambulance with Tessa. Zena drove separately. In those 11 minutes between Ashbury Court and Edward Elmhurst Hospital, sitting next to my daughter with oxygen on her face and a pulse monitor on her finger, I made a decision. I've been in bad deals before. Deals where the other party lied from the jump, built an entire presentation on numbers that weren't real, smiled across the table while they were already planning the exit. You know what blowing up the room gets you in those situations? Nothing. It gets you nothing except a reputation for being emotional. You know what gets you everything? Documentation, patience, and making sure every single piece of evidence is signed, dated, and airtight before you make your move. Zena thought she married a businessman. She forgot that businessmen read the fine print. I sat next to my daughter in that ambulance, held her small hand in both of mine, and started making a mental list of every document I was going to pull the moment I got to that hospital waiting room. I had been closing deals for 15 years. I had never wanted to close one more badly than this. The anger came in through my chest first, not a rush, more like a slow pressurization, the kind that makes you aware of your own ribs, that makes you start reading every document and signs you should have read months ago. That's the anger I had at 117 am in the waiting room of Edward Elmhurst Hospital. The chairs were those stiff blue ones that exist in every hospital on Earth, specifically designed to make sure you never get comfortable enough to stop worrying. The vending machine across the hall hummed. A TV mounted in the corner was playing a cooking show with the sound off, and I was sitting there in the same clothes I'd worn on a transatlantic flight, still smelling like recycled cabin air, pulling up my health insurance portal on my phone, like a man who just realized the building he's been paying rent on doesn't actually exist. I almost didn't look. That's the thing that haunts me. I was the guy who treated his home life like a perfect machine, autopay turned on, trust given blindly, eyes always fixed on the next flight. I had decided home was the one place I didn't need to audit. It was the biggest miscalculation of my career. I logged into our medical portal, pulled up the itemized claims for the past 18 months, and watched my entire life unravel in the blue light of the screen. There it was. Line by line, my entire marriage rewrote itself in the blue light of that phone screen. 2 emergency room visits, dates I was not in Naperville. I didn't even need to check my travel log to know that. I just knew. 3 ambulance dispatches. And then, and this is the part that made my jaw physically tighten, a series of antihistamine prescriptions. Filled under Tessa's name. Using my insurance card. Written not by Dr. Allison, Tessa's pediatrician over on Book Road, but by a walk-in clinic I had never heard of, 15 minutes from our house on Ashbury Court. She didn't even use our regular doctor. Because Dr. Allison would have asked questions. Dr. Allison had known Tessa since she was 3 years old, and would have picked up a phone and called me directly. So Zena found a walk-in clinic, paid the copay with my card, filled the prescription with my insurance, and then went home and made dinner like it was a normal Tuesday. Every business trip I took, every early morning flight to Houston, every overnight in Denver, every 2-week stretch in London funded it. My overtime, my quarterly bonuses, my relentless, grinding commitment to providing for my family paid for the system Zena built to hide what she was doing to my daughter inside that house. I put the phone face down on my knee, picked it back up, kept reading. Zena arrived at the hospital at 2:04 am. I know the exact time, because I watched her walk through the sliding doors from across the waiting room, and I checked my watch the way you timestamp evidence. She had changed clothes. Fresh outfit. Light makeup. She looked like a woman arriving at a charity brunch, not a hospital at 2 in the morning. She sat down next to me and put her hand on my arm. How is she? Soft voice. Concerned eyes. I didn't respond. Kevin, she squeezed my arm. I know this looks scary, but Tessa has always been sensitive. You know how she gets. 8 years old and I know exactly how she gets. She gets excited about dinosaurs and mispronounces specifically, and sleeps with 3 stuffed animals arranged in a very specific order that cannot be disrupted. That's how she gets. The paramedic, I said. Casual, measured, he said some things that worried me. I watched her. Specifically her hands. In my line of work you stop watching people's faces after a while. Faces are rehearsed. Hands tell the truth. Her fingers tightened on my arm just slightly. Quarter second. Gone. What things? She said. Said he thought he recognized the address. Probably got it mixed up. I shrugged. I told him he was confused. The fingers relaxed. Yeah, these paramedics respond to so many calls they probably blur together. She nodded. Settled back in the chair. Satisfied. There it is. The tell. The micro-exhale of someone who just decided they're safe. I looked at the muted cooking show on the TV and thought about every negotiation I had ever walked into where the other party thought they had the leverage. They never saw it coming either. A doctor came out at 3:20 am. Young guy, mid-30s, Dr. Fountain on his badge. He had the careful, measured tone of someone choosing every word with intention. Mr. Wood, your daughter is stable. We're going to keep her overnight for observation. He paused. We found traces of diphenhydramine in her system. That's the active ingredient in common antihistamines. At the level we found it, it's consistent with ingestion beyond a standard dose for her body weight. Zena made a sound beside me. Distressed. Perfectly timed. Oh my God, she said. She must have gotten into the medicine cabinet again. I've told her so many times again, Dr. Fountain said. Silence. I watched Zena realize she'd just handed me a gift. I just meant, kids, she recovered. Smooth. Almost. She's curious. Dr. Fountain looked at her for a moment longer than was comfortable, then looked back at me. We're required to flag this for DCFS. Mr. Wood. Standard protocol. A caseworker will be in contact. Absolutely, I said. Whatever you need. I felt Zena go rigid beside me. Good. She left the hospital at 4:45 am. Said she needed to get some rest. Offered to come back in the morning. Kissed my cheek at the door. I watched her walk to her car in the parking garage from the waiting room window. The moment her taillights disappeared, I went back to my phone. I called my assistant, Renee, at 7 am. She's been with me for 6 years and has never once asked an unnecessary question. Renee, I need my full travel itinerary. Every trip. Every date. Past 24 months. Company verified, printed with HR letterhead. Done by 9? Done by 9. Then I called my attorney, Frank Hayes, at his cell. Frank handles corporate contracts for Hartwell, but he's also the kind of man who knows everybody worth knowing in DuPage County. Kevin, it's 7 in the morning. I know, I need a family law referral. Someone who's handled DCFS cases. Today, Frank. A pause. How bad? I'll explain in person. I'll have a name for you by 8. I sat back down in that blue hospital chair, got a coffee from the vending machine. Terrible, lukewarm, exactly what I deserved for every month I didn't look at my own insurance statements. Drank the whole thing. This is what a bad deal looks like from the inside, I thought. You're comfortable. You're busy. You trust the system. And by the time you realize the contract was fraudulent from the beginning, you've already signed over 18 months of your life. Not anymore. At 9:30 I was allowed into Tessa's room. She was awake, small against the white hospital pillows, an IV in her left hand, the television playing cartoons she wasn't watching. When she saw me in the doorway, her whole face changed. That specific child expression that is equal parts relief and trying not to cry. Daddy, I crossed the room in 3 steps and held her for a long time without saying anything. When I pulled back, I looked at her face carefully. Tired eyes, something behind them that a kid her age should not have. Hey, Bug, how you feeling? My head hurts a little. She picked at the edge of her hospital bracelet. Is Mom here? The way she asked it. Not eager, not missing her. Checking, like she was doing a threat assessment. An 8-year-old doing a threat assessment. No, I said. It's just us. The tension in her small shoulders dropped visibly. I saw it. I catalogued it. I will never forget it. Tessa, I kept my voice easy. Light, can I ask you something? She nodded. When I'm away on my trips, what do things feel like at home? She got very quiet, looked at her bracelet. Then, in the smallest voice, Mom gives me the sleepy drink sometimes. The room was very still. The sleepy drink, I repeated carefully. Yes, she gives me when she has her friends coming over. She looked up at me with the earnest, guileless eyes of a child who doesn't yet know how devastating her words are. She says it helps me have good naps. But Daddy, I don't like it. It makes me feel like the whole world is underwater. The whole world is underwater. I held it together. Barely. Okay, Bug, I tucked her hair back. You did nothing wrong. You understand me? Nothing, she nodded, still watching me. The way kids watch you when they're trying to decide if adults have actually got it handled. I've got it handled, baby, I promise. The DCFS caseworker, a woman named Joyce Tanner, met me in the hallway, outside Tessa's room at 11 p.m. Professional, direct, the kind of woman who has heard every version of every story and stopped being surprised by any of them. I handed her the folder I had assembled, travel itineraries, company verified, HR letterhead, every date accounted for. Insurance portal printouts, every claim, every prescription, every ER visit mapped against my absence. The walk-in clinic prescriptions. And a handwritten timeline I had put together at 5 Tubular am in the hospital cafeteria over a second terrible vending machine coffee. She went through it page by page without speaking. Mr. Wood, she finally said. This is thorough. I close contracts for a living, I said. I know what documentation looks like. She looked at me over the folder. Tessa's statement this morning, combined with this, and the paramedic's second official report. She paused. This has just become a priority investigation. We're moving on this today. Today I nodded. Kept my face neutral, professional. Inside, something cold and exact clicked into place, the way a system does when every component finally runs the way it was designed to. Zena thought she understood the deal she'd made. She never read the terms and conditions, and tomorrow she was going to find out exactly what the penalty clause looked like. If you have been listening for a while, drop your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button while you're at it, and be sure you're subscribed. There's a moment in every bad deal, right before it collapses, when the other party is at their most confident. They're smiling, they're comfortable, they think they've won. That moment, that specific, beautiful, oblivious moment, is exactly when you put everything on the table. I had been waiting for that moment since 11:52 p.m. on a Tuesday in late June. It was now Thursday morning, and Zena was sleeping in our bed like a woman, without a single consequence in the world. Let her sleep. I was already dressed, already caffeinated. Real coffee this time. Dark roast from the Egg Harbor Cafe on Jefferson Avenue. The one Tessa always made me take her to on Saturday mornings because they put whipped cream on her hot chocolate without being asked. I sat in my car in the hospital parking garage at 7:45 am with a cup in each hand and a folder on the passenger seat that represented 48 of the most focused hours of my life. My phone buzzed. Frank Dalton. Kevin, Jennifer Moss is expecting you at 9. She's the best family law attorney in DuPage County. Handled 3 DCFS cases this year alone. Don't be late. I won't. And Kevin, Frank paused. The pause of a man who has known you long enough to say the quiet part out loud. How are you holding up? How am I holding up? I'll answer that question tomorrow, I said. Today I've got work to do. Jennifer Moss's office was on South Washington Street, downtown Naperville. Clean, organized, nothing on her desk that didn't need to be there. She was maybe 45, silver starting at her temples, reading glasses pushed up on her head like she'd just finished reviewing something and wasn't done with it yet. She had the calm, unhurried energy of someone who had seen genuinely terrible situations and knew exactly what to do about them. She looked at my folder for 11 minutes without saying a word. I know it was 11 minutes because I watched the clock on her wall. Walk me through the travel logs, she said. I did. Every trip, every date, every city mapped against every insurance claim, every ER visit, every prescription filled at that walk-in clinic on Route 59. She never did this when you were home, Jennifer said. Not once. Every single incident, February, March, late April, I was in Denver, Houston, London. The pattern is airtight. And Tessa's statement? I told her. The sleepy juice. The juice box. It makes me feel like the whole world is underwater. Jennifer took her glasses off her head and set them on the desk. Mr. Wood, she said, I've been doing this for 16 years. Judges in DuPage County do not take child endangerment lightly. With this documentation, Tessa's recorded statement to the caseworker, and the paramedic's second official report triggering the mandatory escalation, she tapped the folder. We can have an emergency protective order signed before noon. Before noon, I repeated. Before noon. She picked up her pen. And then we go get your daughter's life back. I could have hugged that woman. I want to tell you I felt victorious walking out of Jennifer Moss's office at 10:30 am. I want to tell you it felt like a movie moment. Sunlight, swell of music, man walks toward justice in slow motion. It didn't feel like that. It felt like standing at the end of a very long assembly line, watching every component lock into place exactly as designed, knowing the machine was about to run, and feeling nothing yet except the specific hollow exhaustion of someone who has been holding it together through sheer professional discipline for 36 hours straight. The feelings would come later. Tessa was first. I drove back to Edward Elmhurst. Tessa was awake, sitting up in bed, eating a cup of applesauce, with the focused seriousness of a child who had opinions about applesauce texture. She was wearing a hospital gown with tiny blue stars on it, and she had somehow, in the way only children can, made it look completely normal. Hey Bug, Daddy, they don't have the good applesauce. This one's too smooth. There she is. I sat on the edge of her bed, and for a moment I just looked at her. 8 years old. Lost her mother before she could form a proper memory of her. Spent the last 2 years being quietly, systematically harmed by the woman I brought into her home. And she was sitting there with opinions about applesauce texture. Kids are something else entirely. They survive things that would level adults, and then they ask for better applesauce. When do I go home? She asked. Today, this afternoon. She looked at me carefully. Is Zena going to be there? No, I said. Zena is not going to be there. She searched my face for the adult truth behind the adult words. Whatever she found there satisfied her, because she went back to her applesauce and said, Okay. Can we get Lou Malnati's tonight? Deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's, the Naperville location on Ogden Avenue. Her mother's favorite, as it happened. Olivia had very strong feelings about Chicago-style deep dish, and had apparently passed that conviction directly into her daughter's DNA. We can get whatever you want, I said, and I meant it in every possible way. At 11:47 am, Joyce Tanner called me. Mr. Wood, the judge just signed the emergency order. Zena is barred from the property and has zero contact rights with Tessa, effective immediately. Because of the medical evidence, the police are bypassing standard scheduling. They're serving her with the emergency order alongside a domestic hold to bring her in for formal questioning on felony child endangerment. A pause. Do you know where she is right now? We want to avoid doing this at the house while your daughter is being discharged. Did I know her current whereabouts? See, here's the thing about living with someone for 4 years. You know their patterns. You know their routines. You know that every Thursday, without exception, Zena and her social circle, a rotating cast of Naperville's most image-conscious women, had lunch at Sullivan's on Freedom Drive. 12:30 reservation. Same table. Same performance. She had texted me at 9:00 a.m. that morning, heading out for lunch with the girls. Hospital later? Let me know how Tessa is. Love you. She signed it with a heart emoji. I had not responded. Yes, I told Joyce Tanner. I know exactly where she is. And if you go now, she'll have an audience. I want you to picture Sullivan's on Freedom Drive at 12:44 p.m. on a Thursday in late June. It's the kind of restaurant that Naperville's particular brand of suburban success has perfected. Warm lighting, white tablecloths. A bar that starts doing real business by noon. The lunch crowd is professionals and ladies who lunch and the occasional power meeting. Everyone is put together. Everyone is performing, just slightly, for everyone else. Zena's table was near the window. 4 women. Wine already poured. She was in a cream blazer, hair done, looking like the cover of a magazine called Everything is Fine Monthly. The hostess told me later she was in the middle of holding court, likely playing the role she always played when she drugged Tessa to host wine nights, the exhausted, saintly stepmother dealing with a chronically ill child. She was laughing, her head thrown back slightly, that specific performative laugh she deployed when she wanted a room to notice her status. I was not there in person. I didn't need to be. 3 people walked into Sullivan's at 12:44 p.m. 2 uniformed Naperville Police Department officers and Joyce Tanner. The restaurant didn't stop all at once. It slowed, table by table, conversation by conversation, the way a room does when something is happening that everyone recognizes as significant, but no one wants to be caught staring at directly. They walked directly to the window table. Joyce Tanner placed the protective order and the felony child endangerment warrant on the white tablecloth in front of Zena, right next to her wine glass. Zena Wood. I'm Joyce Tanner, DuPage County DCFS. These are Officers Riley and Beck of the Naperville Police Department. Zena looked at the documents, then up at the officers, then at her friends, 4 women who had gone completely, perfectly silent. There's been a mistake, she said. The voice she used was the reasonable one, the composed one, the one that had worked on teachers and doctors and a very trusting husband for 4 years. I don't know what my husband told you, but he doesn't have the full picture, ma'am, Officer Riley said. Quiet, firm, final. Please stand up. She looked for an exit. That's what the hostess told me later. She looked left, then right, the way people do when they're calculating whether a scene is survivable. Whether she could talk her way sideways out of this like she'd talked her way out of everything else. She could not. The handcuffs went on in full view of the window table, the adjacent tables, the bar, and the Thursday lunch crowd of Sullivan's on Freedom Drive in Naperville, Illinois. The social circle she had curated and maintained and performed for. The women she chose lunch with over an 8-year-old girl who just wanted her father to come home. Watched her walk out between 2 police officers through the restaurant she had chosen specifically because everyone who mattered to her ate there. Not one of them stood up. Not one. I changed the locks at 2:00 p.m. Cancelled her cards at 2:15. Removed her name from the emergency contact list at Tessa's school at 2:30. From the insurance policy at 2:45. From the HOA account for Ashbury Court at 3:00. Systematic, sequential, thorough. You automate the things that need to run cleanly. Tessa came home at 4:30, discharged and declared medically stable, still wearing the hospital bracelet because she said it made her feel like she had a cool accessory. She walked through the front door of the house on Ashbury Court, looked around like she was checking whether the air had changed, and then dropped her backpack by the stairs the way she always did. The exact spot that drove Xena insane, and that I had never once asked her to move it from. It smells different, Tessa said. Good different or bad different? She thought about it seriously, like when you open a window. Yeah, baby, exactly like that. The Lou Malnati's arrived at 6:30. Deep dish sausage pizza, because Olivia had raised her daughter right even from wherever she was watching from. We ate it on the living room floor because Tessa wanted to watch a nature documentary about sea otters, and I had absolutely no objections. She fell asleep against my shoulder at 8:15. Real sleep, deep, safe, unmedicated. A child who had nothing to fear inside her own home. I didn't move for a long time. I just sat there in the quiet of a house that had finally exhaled. Xena Wood was processed at the DuPage County facility at 7:08 p.m. Felony child endangerment. The kind of charge that doesn't disappear, doesn't negotiate itself down easily, and follows you in every room you walk into for the rest of your life. I know the timestamp because Joyce Tanner texted it to me. I read it. Set the phone face down on the carpet. Looked at my daughter sleeping against my shoulder, her face slack and peaceful in a way it hadn't been in longer than I wanted to admit. She looks like Olivia, I thought. She has always looked like Olivia. I pulled the blanket up around her and looked back at the sea otters on the television. Some people leave a door open when they exit a deal. They leave loose ends, unresolved clauses, the possibility of re-entry. They think they can come back and renegotiate. I had closed every door, locked every window, filed every document. This deal was done. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. I will see you on the next one.